Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Jackman Radio. I am your host, Mike Jackman, and we are joined by a dear friend and special guest tonight, Mr. Probyn Gregory, musician extraordinaire, joining us from California. How are you tonight, good sir?
I am well, my liege, and how farest thou?
Midland, Midland,
okay.
Midland warmed over. I've actually been battling a head cold, so I got I got some raspberry ginger ale and I got a lozenger. So I apologize to you and to the audience, but if I sound like I'm choking a little bit, but we're gonna get through it. But really excited to have you. It's been too long, and I think maybe the last time we did a visit was when you were in New Hampshire, maybe I don't know, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, up at Post and Beam Brewing.
Oh, or maybe, right. Yeah, I think that was about 3 or 4 years ago. I seem to remember it was like during one of the big COVID times that the masks were a big thing then.
We sat outside, though, so I think we enjoyed a nice Thai feast and a cold lager. But
That's right. We did have some Thai food. I can't remember the name of the joint, but that's a nice joint. What was
Thai
the name
Garden.
of that?
Thai Cafe? No, Thai Garden.
The brewery.
Oh, the brewery is Post and Beam Brewery.
Post and Beam, yeah.
Yeah, they let you bring in food, and we got Thai Garden from Keene, which is that's the hot spot up here, man. That's the best Thai you're going to get.
Okay.
So, Thai aside, to our audience, who's usually we do a lot with the news and politics and history, tonight we're going to be talking about rock and roll music and one of our very favorite artists, Mr. Brian Wilson, who sadly passed away in June, shortly before his, I believe, 83rd birthday. Probyn, first off, I just want to say I'm very sorry, about that. I know that you were friends with him and knew him and was in part of his organization from probably, 98, 99 till...
That's right, 99 it was. 25 years I knew that guy. Well, actually, we met him before then, but when I got in the band in 1999 was when things really started to gel and coalesce.
Yeah. So how you doing? You holding up okay?
I'm okay. I mean, it comes in little waves. Just a little while ago, I'm reading a promotional copy of the book by David Beard, who runs a magazine called Endless Summer Quarterly, which is as he likes to put it, the Beach Boys magazine of record. And David is very respectful about the Beach Boys and the various tensions that have, gone on over the years. Anyway, of course, naturally, Brian is in this book a lot. And here I am trying to read it to give it a promotional blurb. So for the last day or so, Brian has been on my mind a lot because I've been reading this book of anecdotes and quotes of his that I never had heard before from, 1963.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's just, everyone uses the word genius and, who's a fan or respects his work and how talented he was. But, I mean, really, talking about 1963, he would have been 20 or, going on 21 to write such amazing music at that time. I mean, what was it like, you're a young boy in, maybe New Hampshire, in the 60s, listening to Beach Boys. The albums come out brand new. Flash forward, you're on stage with them playing Surfer Girl, In My Room, I Get Around, all these hits. I mean, how was that experience, man?
Well, it was phenomenal. I mean, I to this day, this minute, I feel so honored to have been in the right place at the right time that I ended up in the Brian Wilson band playing these great hits that were a big influence on me when I was a kid. When I was 8, was I 8 or 9? I guess I was 8 when California Girls came out. So I had my first little transistor radio about the size of a deck of playing cards. And I was holding that thing up to my ear constantly. And certain songs made a big impression. One of them was Go Now by the Moody Blues, which I still think is maybe their best song ever, even though it's a cover. And then later that year, that intro to California Girls, I would have to stop what I was doing and listen yet again and wonder why my insides got all tied up in knots when I heard this song. At least even the intro to the song, it actually transported me to another world. So I'd never had that experience with any other music before the Beach Boys. And of course, that meant that I paid a lot of attention to them in the next years. At those very early times, we were summering in New Hampshire where my grandparents were, but we were, my dad I was a faculty brat. So I followed my dad got a job at Stanford. So we were in Palo Alto, Summer of Love, 1965, 66, 67. And, that was the heyday of the Beach Boys, Good Vibrations. But then finally in 1967, it was Heroes and Villains, which is a very strange song. When I first heard that, I said, oh, whoever made this record, something's not quite normal with them. Which, of course, turned out to be true in a good way, that Brian's brain works differently than the rest of ours. Anyway, this is a long-winded answer to your question. It has been a great honor and a privilege to be part of this latter-day renaissance of one of my great musical heroes.
Right. Wow, that's beautiful. Right, to call it right. Your job was to be on stage with Brian Wilson and learn all the songs. What was the first time you met Brian before you played with him? What was that like?
The very first time I met him was about 1989. He had just come out with his first solo album, and I was bringing my gear into a rehearsal room in West LA, and I heard what sounded like Brian Wilson rehearsing behind a closed door in a room. So I asked the guy at the counter, hey, who is that? He said, that's Brian Wilson. I said, oh my God, I'm never going to have another chance like this. So I said, I know it's rude. I didn't even ask the guy. I just went to the door. I knocked on it. Brian, who was alone in the room, came and opened the door. And I said, I am such a fan. I don't want to waste any of your time, but I've loved your music. Thank you so much for giving that to us. And then I left, and then he went back to singing along. I will say rather poorly. He was singing along with something. I guess he was going to be on some TV show, and they had him singing. And he was in a sort of a rough period of his singing when he just had a tape of the song, and he was singing the lead over the tape of the song, and it wasn't too good. When I first heard it, that's why I had to ask the guy in the front, is this someone making fun of Brian, or is this Brian himself?
Wow. Yeah, that must have been during the Dr. Landy years or just after, right?
Maybe, yeah, it probably was. In fact, I was surprised that Landy wasn't in the room with him in that case.
Right, getting co-writing credits.
When we first really met him, when it made a difference, was about 1994 or so. There was this charity group called Wild Honey. They used to, when they first came to being, you would pick a group, Everly Brothers, the Kinks, the Who, and you would honor that group, and bands would come in and play a song or two of that artist. So one time, it was the honoree was Brian Wilson. So my band, the Wondermints, came and did some kind of difficult material. We did Surf's Up, on which I sang the lead. We did This Whole World and Our Prayer. So I didn't even know Brian was there until I was on stage looking into the audience, and I saw him and his wife, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to sing Surf's Up in front of the guy who did it.
Wow.
That was bad. That was tough for me. But anyway, we got on Brian's radar. He liked us at that thing. And later on, the Wild Honey group became an autism charity instead of just being, it was called Sweet Relief. And Sweet Relief was really a charity for older musicians who had had their publishing illegally either not assigned to them or stolen or something. So now they're old and sick and with no money to pay their bills. So Sweet Relief used to assist with that. And then eventually Wild Honey became this autism charity. And later on was it 2017? I can't remember. There was Wild Honey did a Beach Boys tribute, really just the Beach Boys up to 1977 from their big beginnings. And that was good. And I can't remember. I don't think Brian came to that one, but Al did. Al Jardine came and performed at the Beach Boys tribute. Anyway, I don't want to go on and on about that. Next question, please.
So you mentioned Wondermints. I wanted to bring up the fact that the 30th anniversary of the album from 1995 has been reissued. Are you involved much with that, or what's What's the story on that? How's that going?
Yes. Well, since that was the very first album, that album was largely recorded right around the time that I was starting to join the band, which was, what was that, 1995, 1994? I can't remember. Anyway, I only played a little bit on that record. I know I played a trumpet solo on Global Village Idiot.
That's a cool tune.
Can't remember. I don't think I played guitar and any of the rest of that. I have a copy of the vinyl, but I haven't played it yet because my turntable is buried in the same place that my CD player doesn't. I don't even have anything to play CDs on anymore. I have to get a drive and put that into my laptop, since even though I'm a bit of a Luddite, and I would prefer to do things the old way, I have too many things. I'm a semi-hoarder, and even my music equipment is sometimes hard to get at.
I can understand that. Yeah, we live in an apartment together here, and I got drums all over the place, much to Eric's chagrin sometimes.
And in my car.
And in the sometimes
they're always in the car.
But yeah, so you came up through that LA pop milieu, that scene, different bands, and you went out there in the early '80s, and then, like you said a little while ago there, you eventually found an audience with Brian Wilson. And is it true he made a remark to his wife and said, wow, these guys are amazing. If I ever went on the road again, these guys would be my band?
Yes, I've heard that said. It's sort of apocryphal. No one had a tape player going, and I wasn't in the room when it was said, but it was rumored to have been said by Brian that if he had us, he would have taken Smile out on the road.
Okay, so that's probably...
I can neither confirm nor deny.
We're going to just say it's true. It's real. It happened. We believe that it did.
We did go on the road with them, and for many years, for almost 25 years.
So then you kind of got a call a little while later, right? When you were with Wondermints, and saying that this would have been around, 99 or 2000, that Brian is in fact going to be hitting the road, and you were kind of skeptical that it was going to be a full tour, or what was that time period like?
Yes, it was the very end of 1998. I got a call from the manager of the Wondermints saying, "Do you want to fly out to St. Charles, Illinois," which is where Brian was living at the time, because we're not quite sure why he was there, other than his wife and the producer, Joe Thomas's wife, were very good friends. And so they actually had houses next door to each other, McMansions in St. Charles, Illinois. And now I think, I don't know about Joe Thomas's wife, but Joe's dead. Brian's dead. Melinda Wilson is dead. So things changed.
Yeah, Nikki, may they all rest in peace.
May they all rest in peace. Jeff Foskett, Nick Walusko, Andy Paley.
Nick was so much fun to meet backstage, man. He just had great stories and character, and was funny, and he didn't know me from any, who the hell was this kid back there? But he was just warm and friendly and gracious and just a larger than life personality,
Yes, a wonderful guy. For people that don't know, the main guitar player and one of the main songwriters of the Wondermints. I was always just the add-on. I was the non-writing member of the Wondermints on second guitar and any horns or any other things that, mainly those other things like banjo or French horn or this and that, came to be under Brian Wilson. But that was my entree into the Brian band. I was a multi-guy. I was like the utility infielder of the baseball.
Definitely utility.
Yeah. I love that track, Libby Land, too. That's a beautiful song.
Oh, yeah, it's a great song.
That's just pure pop. If anybody listening, if you haven't listened to Wondermints or their first album, go check it out. If you can still get your hands on a copy, I think there's a vinyl reissue to the tune of maybe 5,000 copies out there or something like that.
I don't know the actual number, but it's not a big amount. And that would be please buy it. It can't be a stocking stuffer, because I can't remember if they've done it in CD or not. I know they've done it in vinyl, and it's a regular 12-inch. That's not going to fit in anyone's stocking except Bigfoot.
Yeah, Santa can fit it in his bag. But and then kind of around that time when I was first getting into Brian's music and the Beach Boys as a young boy, the Live from the Roxy was really, really kind of stuck out for me. And I know I mentioned to you offline if you could recount any memories, but I know it was so long ago. What's your impression of the legacy of the Live from the Roxy album, and how good Brian's voice sounded, and the fact that that's also just been reissued?
Yes, I'm glad it's been reissued, because it reminds me of when Brian was much more engaged than when his voice was in much better shape than it was latterly. Like he finally stopped working in 2022, summer of 2022. And at that time, he was only singing little phrases, like 3 or 4 words at a time. Then he just stopped singing, even though the words are on a teleprompter in front of him. We're still not sure why. I mean, he's had a lot of challenging health issues over the years. Of course, everyone knows about his manic depression with audio hallucinations, in which he hears voices, a lot of them saying bad things, saying that someone's going to kill him tonight, which happened the second or third show that we ever did with Brian. Brian heard these voices, and he said, "We've got to get 2 security guys, one on the left and one on the right. I want to see them with their guns visible." And that was done. I think that was Milwaukee of March of 1999. Wow. And that happened a couple more times, that he thought he was going to get killed, and he had security hired.
Wow. I mean, I guess in some ways that's kind of understandable, considering obviously some of his contemporaries and the violence that befell them. But of course, mental illness comes into play there. But eventually he got more comfortable and the guns went away and
right.
He started.
Yes. And things progressed to the point where I'm getting ahead of myself when I say the word Smile, that album that was famously unfinished in 1967 and finally did get finished bless you.
Thank you.
Did get finished in 2004. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But he was definitely, by the time of Live at the Roxy, with the band had been together about a year, a little over a year. That was April of 2000. That was recorded on 2 consecutive nights at the Roxy, which is a famous LA club that I saw Dick Dale and the Deltones play there. You've never heard anything so loud in your life. Everyone's hands were over their ears with earplugs in, and it was barely tolerable.
That just gets to a point where it's not even enjoyable now. Like with going to shows, like I joke with Eric, I'm like, "Oh man, we're almost 40. If we're going to go out to a concert, it has to have this type of seating. It's going to be done by 8:00. It has to have, and because of the expense, it's like 1 show a year at this point, man." For big shows.
I'm not that far off from you guys either. I mean, I may be significantly older at 68, but I have this similar laundry list of things that have to be met. Or I'm driving at night, so getting home at 11 or 1 in the morning, that's not really a problem for me. But the volume is, and also if I have to stand the whole show and not have anywhere to sit down, that's not going to fly either.
Yeah, I want to have my concert rider like Brian at some of the shows where he'd have a recliner backstage.
Oh, yeah.
Recliner with him. I love that, man. That's like JFK rocking chair recliner vibes.
He traveled with that thing. He traveled with his easy chair.
I want one for Thanksgiving next week. I want like my own Brian Wilson branded recliner.
That's great. A Brian Wilson memorial recliner. They should have his name on it. That's a great idea.
They should do series. Yeah.
If I was a furniture manufacturer, I'd get right on that.
Endorsed by Probyn Gregory. It's really comfortable.
Probyn, could you get me a steak and give me a neck rub?
Right.
Yeah, and it has an LA Dodgers logo on it too, because that was really beautiful, Probyn, to see in the last couple of years of his life. He made it out to a couple Dodgers games.
He did, and some Lakers games too.
Yeah, that was really cool to see. You could kind of feel the vibes of when he was a kid, how important baseball was to him, and how he was I think he was a star pitcher.
He was.
And he played football, and he was a hell of a hitter. And always a big dude, big frame. He was like, what, about 6'2"?
Yeah, that's right. And when he'd always like you to give him a back rub. And let me tell you, right out of the gate in 1999, his muscles were like a rock. He must have worked out all the time. He was in shape, let me tell you.
Yeah. No, I remember the first time I met him in person backstage. I was like, wow, Brian, he's a big presence.
He's a unit.
He's a unit beyond the voice. A large, beautiful mass of a man. But I could just sense that joy. Like it came through again, like that childlike wonderment from when he was a kid, so fond of baseball and in California playing sports with his brothers and all his friends. So I take a lot of solace in that, knowing that he got to go and do that. And then some of those dinners he did with some really cool people at that restaurant they post on Brian's Instagram.
Probably Musso and Frank's, or
Yes.
maybe it was Morton's Steakhouse. He loved
Cameron Crowe is it?
Captain. Cameron Crowe was one of them. Yep, sure.
Yeah, he's in a lot of those pictures, and it just looked like such a cool crew of people all around Brian holding court and having dinner with him.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, it's great that those memories are documented. And then I see you turn up Probyn in a lot of like random reels on Instagram now. I don't know how active you are on there. But
I have an Instagram account, but I don't know how to upload any photo material. So I go on about once every 2 months and just look and see messages or posts from people that I know. And sometimes some of those things get translated over to Facebook, where I am more active.
Yeah, we'll be old school. Someone who had a camcorder with you guys when you're all warming up around Brian or singing with him, and Darian's there and everyone. I'm like, hey, there's Probyn right there. So it's really cool moments and stuff I, obviously had never seen before. So if we can get you on Instagram more, Probyn, that'd be good.
Well, I have to learn how to.
Yeah.
I know how to film things on my phone. That I can do, but getting them uploaded onto Instagram, I'm not half the time. I can't remember my password, so I can't even get it back.
I can't. Yeah. I can't. I'm not P-synced at all on anything. And you mentioned the 2022. Obviously the last tour you guys did with Brian. We came out and saw you guys with Chicago at Great Woods down in Massachusetts,
Mansfield.
And I will say I really did see a spark come alive in Brian when you guys did the Ronettes, because I know that was his favorite song, "Be My Baby." So
that's great. I forgot that we did that song. I know we've done that on and off over the years. How could we not, if it being his favorite song of all time?
Yeah. So that's a takeaway. And then we were a few rows back from the front. I was able to get really good tickets, and just being able to see you guys do that one as well as "Don't Worry, Baby," because it was on my dad's birthday actually. That concert. The last time I ever saw Brian was on my dad's, what would have been his birthday. So it is. I know that was a difficult tour for you guys and for Brian, but there's still something very beautiful and inspiring seeing him up there, even in that capacity.
Right. With his back surgeries, he was in like low level pain all the time. So he was on even additional pain meds, and on top of his normal whatever you call his envelope of pills that keeps him, keeps the manic depression at arm's length.
Yeah. And now, now it looks like Mr. Al Jardine is kind of keeping the flame going and has picked up the baton. But even I remember reading even before Brian passed that he was going to go out on the road with the band. And I know you've kind of subbed and done some of the smaller shows with Al, but obviously because of another Al, you're not going to be able to really do much with that next year, or what's
Right. I've been sort of backing up Al Jardine for about 2 or 3 years, and then when Ed Carter retired, I was on bass with him for a couple of shows also, until all that got sort of sorted out about the Brian Wilson band coming to Al's support, which is great, and I'm happy that it's happening. I'm just sad that I'm not there. I am going to sit in with the band on the 23rd of this month, not far from here. I'll just bring my horns down and play, God Only Knows and Darlin', and I think they're going to do something off of the Beach Boys' Love You called Good Time. It has a trumpet part, so I'll do that. Anyway, so Al Jardine still has, to me, the best voice of the remaining living Beach Boys, which at this point are really, if you're being strict about it, it's Mike Love and Al Jardine, although David Marks, of course, is still around and would like to be part of some of this and probably will be. And then, of course, Bruce Johnston, who took over for Brian when he had his breakdown. Bruce and Mike are still around under the Beach Boys banner. Anyway, yeah, it's true. You mentioned the other Al, Weird Al. So last year I got, in the year when there was, Al Jardine was not doing much, and I'd been on a Bacharach. I got invited to be in a Bacharach tribute tour with Bacharach's old musical director, and one of my heroes, Todd Rundgren, was singing most of the lead vocals. So I was in the backing band for that, in I guess it was about April and May of this year, 2025. And I also got tapped to be in the band of Weird Al Yankovic, the rock parodist, who is a really great guy and very musical and extremely talented. All those videos you see, he edits them himself. He puts his whole show together by him, pretty much a one-man army.
Wow.
But there's a lot of us on stage backing him up and trying to make it sound like the record. So I did that from, I guess we started out, it was the day Brian died. The day Brian Wilson died, about an hour or two after he'd passed, I flew to Las Vegas for the first show of the Weird Al Yankovic tour. And let me tell you something, because I've been there 100 times. I looked down and I saw Brian Wilson's house. So I know the roads that go up there. And I said, oh my God, I'm right, because he died at home. So I'm thinking, well, his fragments of his soul are floating up into the air and mixing with mine as I'm passing through in my airplane.
Wow.
Oh, man.
It was meaningful to me. And regrettably, because I was on tour with Weird Al, I was unable to attend the Friends and Family Memorial on July 9, which happened in Los Angeles. I was on stage in Toronto that date. I couldn't get a sub. It didn't work that way. But I gathered that it was a very meaningful time for everyone who was in attendance. And anyway, I'm all getting on a tangent now.
Well, hey, that's the beauty of podcasts. It's our podcast. We can talk about whatever we want.
All right.
Yeah, and one of the highlights, I follow Weird Al on Instagram, was that Madison Square Garden show you did. That was some great pictures of you there, man. And what was that feeling like? Because that was a big sold out show, right? And that was that. Had you played Madison Square Garden before? Or was this the first time?
I had never even set foot there.
Okay.
And I'm not sure that Weird Al had either, because he started the show by saying, I want to take a minute and just look around at this place. I think one of his first, maybe his first ever rock show was seen there by him, but he had never been on stage there.
Wow.
So it was a milestone for him. And it was for the rest of us too. I think I got a picture of me with the empty hall. I think it holds 20,000, although because of the layout of our band, we have to have the back part where the costume changes are happening. There's, we didn't want you want to be able to see the stage and not be behind the stage. So they blocked off I think 2,000. We sold out 18,000 here's another anecdote from that place. So I go in and I thought to myself, it's called Madison Square Garden, but I'm not seeing many plants around. So I got a security guard to go around with me all over the venue. We looked everywhere. Not one plant in the garden.
Really?
Wow. Interesting.
That's wild. Yeah, that's the picture I'm talking about. It's like, yep, Jaffrey boy makes good. Sells out, performs at Mad. That must have been exhilarating, man.
It was for everyone. That was one of the high points of the whole tour, was not only selling the place out, but the audience was rabid. They were on fire. So and Weird Al gave it right back to them. We were all on cloud 9.
Wow.
Yeah, it's quite a show you guys do, man. And you mentioned the costumes. Like, do you have them set up so you can change in and out of them really quickly? As
quickly as we can. There's a folding table for each of us, or almost. Sometimes for 3 of us, there'll be 2 folding tables. And it's backstage. We have to sort of essentially run off stage, get into our costumes as fast as we possibly can. Especially later on, later on in the show, there's a Star Wars outfit that has several layers. And also in terms of Weird Al himself, some of the costumes, like the one that he does for Eat It, where he has, or is it called Fat?
The fat suit, yeah, for Eat It.
Yeah.
Or just fat. Yeah, I'm fat.
I'm fat, right, exactly. Instead of I'm bad, right, it's I'm fat. So for the fat one, he has 2 costume helpers in addition to him helping out as much as he can to get these, because there's several layers of face he has to put on, right? And several layers of clothing, and then the external stuff. And I see everyone, they're busting ass. They're going as fast as they possibly can, and you can hear the video out front. We have something to cover for us, like a video of one of the songs, just a snippet. It'll be like a minute long. and we have, or maybe the fat one's 2 minutes, whatever length it is. We're all just going as fast as we possibly can. Sometimes I have to help out the other guys in the band. Like the Devo outfit is made of rubber, the old original ones they had, and it sticks to you. So especially if you're sweating, you can't put it off. You can't get on or off yourself. So I have to turn to the Chemo, the main guitar player, Chemo West, and I have to help him, peel this thing off so that he can get out of his suit and into the next one.
The night Saint Nick went insane. Something must have finally snapped in his brain.
That's a classic. That's the album that we came up on. Our old man turned us on to Weird Al, obviously with the Like a Surgeon and
Amish Paradise.
What we got into was Amish Paradise as third graders. We had the cassette tape for Bad Hair Day. Dude, you guys crushed that, man. You do a great job with that, man. And you got the beard, and that stuff's timeless, man. I mean, that album came out probably 32 years ago, and it's still
Weird Al's been around for a long time, since the early 80s. So where are we now? It's 2005. It's over 40 years ago.
Almost 2026.
I think
did you tell Probyn, Mike, how Weird Al, he narrated, what did he narrate? Justin's documentary?
Yeah, so he provided the narration for our buddy Justin Martell's Tiny Tim documentary, King for a Day.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah,
I can see why he probably liked Tiny Tim quite a bit and may have even met him. I'm trying to remember when Tiny Tim died. Was that in the 90s? 2000?
96.
Huh.
96, yeah. And I think there's a story. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if you told me the story or I heard it somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure Weird Al was in the audience at a Ringo Starr concert, and Ringo was like, "Hey, everybody, Tiny Tim's here," and he was pointing to Weird Al. And he
I never heard that before.
Yeah.
That's great.
But I watched. I did on YouTube one night watch one of your entire Weird Al concerts, and it looks entertaining as hell and awesome. So I hopefully next year, one of your New England dates, we can make it out to one of those shows because, I mean, it just seems like he's bigger than ever, selling out all these dates, and there's a lot of generations and crossover appeal, which is crazy.
We were all a little surprised. I'm not sure if Weird Al himself was surprised, but some of us in the backing band were surprised at how many shows sold out, and some of them rather swiftly, because he hasn't had a new album out for a couple of years, and he hadn't toured for at least 2 years. I mean, I think I've heard that's his modus operandi is to tour 1 year, and if it goes well, they'll add a second year, which they've done for this 2026 add-on, and then he's likely to take a break of a year or two while he either comes up with new material or invents new videos or new interstitial material to sort of glue the set together.
Is it a party at the CIA, Probyn?
It could be a party at the CIA. How about the NIH, National Institutes of Health?
There's bullets raining down there. Did you see that? There were people firing bullets into one of those buildings.
Who was?
Somebody fired into that building like a month or two ago.
What, the NIH?
National, one of the, I don't know if it was NIH or NHS or
I see.
One of those. Yeah.
Well, we're in weird times. I don't even want to talk about it in this podcast. You could go on and beat the dead horse. I'd rather talk about music.
That's
kind of what we wanted to do.
This episode's a palate cleanser, man, from all that crap for me. This is sunshine. This is stuff that just brings immense joy, and it's just going to see you and Brian, man, in our childhood and formative years. This is one of the pillars and foundations of our love of music. So,
that's great. Glad I could help be a part of that with you guys.
Man, yeah, with some of our friends and our dad, man, it provided just some of the most memorable and joyful and like surreal experiences. Actually, I got this right here. This is pretty cool, Probyn.
Great. What year was that?
So that is summer of 2005 at the Tent in Boston.
I remember that, the Harbor Lights or whatever they were calling it.
Yeah, what was it called? The Bank of America Pavilion, Mike?
It's changed names a few times, but
Right.
yeah,
Well, that
at
reminds
that
me.
time.
So this year, when with Weird Al, we're going to play at what they call TD Garden. What does that stand
Oh,
for?
that's so TD Bank is like the front of that, and TD stands for Toronto Dominion.
Oh,
And I will be at TD Garden tomorrow night, Probyn, to see the Boston Celtics.
oh, nice.
Yeah, going with a friend who lives down in Rhode Island. He's a huge Celtics fan. So a colleague of mine won these tickets, and he couldn't go to the show, so he offered them to me. And I was able to surprise my buddy and say, dude, you want to go to the Celtics comped? So I will be there tomorrow. It's a cool venue.
And now, is that what used to be Boston Garden?
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
That was
And
the only basketball I ever saw there was the Harlem Globetrotters around 1972 when the whole family went down.
Oh, really? The Globetrotters?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the first Celtics game I've gone to in 10 years. I've been this will be the second or third one I've ever gone to.
Wow.
And then I'll be back at the Garden in December for Bruins Canadians. So I'm very excited about that.
Nice.
But who did we, Mike? We saw Jeff Lynne there last year.
Yeah, so we saw Jeff Lynne's final ELO tour in America last year, and
I'm sorry to have to miss that. I'm at the. I was fine when there were local weekly papers and they had quarter page ads. I read those all the time and could make my decisions about shows. These days, I don't know how people do it. I mean, do you have to go to the website of each artist and then be on? There doesn't seem to be a clearinghouse for, like, I don't even hear on the radio. No one says, "Hey, Miley Cyrus is coming to such and such a venue." I don't hear. I don't know where people get their news anymore about gigs.
basically, I think the algorithms know what all of our tastes are. So I would just get on Facebook. I'd get a Facebook ad right in front of my face of Gilbert O'Sullivan or Electric Light Orchestra. So it knows me. The machines know us, Probyn. So the machines know us so well, you know. And
I'm afraid so, but I never look at those peripheral ads. I guess maybe I should.
I mean, I try not to, but I'm convinced our phones. I mean, our phones do record us. They do listen to what we're saying, and then you go online later, you get an advertisement from something related to what you were talking about, which is kind of mind-boggling. But
yeah, I hate that.
I still get them on Live Nation or Ticket Monster. That's usually where we get
Monster.
Ticket Monster has the they've got the stranglehold. But so to get ready for something like Weird Al, we can kind of harken back a little bit to when you were part of the Austin Powers franchise with Mike Myers.
Right.
How did you get plugged into that?
Okay, so the Wondermints, my band, had done a song called "The Party," which was it was the title song of a Peter Sellers movie from the 60s, which is very fun. If you've never seen it, you should see it, The Party. Anyway, we had done a rather faithful version to the original. I think that was maybe that Mancini had written that. Anyway, it was on a comp of Mancini music, and Mike Myers, who had the idea for Austin Powers rattling it around in his head, heard it and called up our manager and said, "This sound is the sound I want to be on the theme song of my next movie." And of course, it was unknown. No one had heard Austin Powers. I think Mike workshopped it a little bit at the Groundlings, which I was in the house band for a little bit. It's a comedy group in LA, somewhat akin to Saturday Night Live, but not near as famous. Anyway, so we did the theme song for the first Austin Power movie. And then it became really popular. It was so popular that Madonna had control of the soundtrack for the second one. And she didn't know us from Adam. So even though Mike Myers wanted us to be involved in some way in the second movie, it wasn't to be. He didn't have enough clout at the time. And then, of course, it went on to be a franchise. They made at least 3 movies of the Austin Powers stuff. But we were only in the first one. And for those who think that the theme song is the little flute thing, sure, you would think of that immediately. Maybe that's the theme song. It's not actually true. The theme song is Austin Powers, he's the man for me. Ba, 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 ba. It happens 2 times in the movie. Some when they're on a waterbed, and then over the closing credits, they ran that song also. So anyway, that's the Austin Powers thing. But your question was, what about that now?
Well, the gimmick of what you're doing with Weird Al and getting dressed up, because you do a live performance one time on MTV with Mike Myers, and you guys were wearing like 60s clothing.
1995, I think, or 95 or 6, we were on the MTV Movie Awards, and because the band in that movie is called Ming T, like something Chinese,
With
MINT.
Susanna Hoff.
Right. Susanna Hoff was part of that, exactly. And so was, I think, Matthew Sweet. Anyway, we appeared as Mint, like the Wonder Mints. We appeared as Mint Tea, and we all had beetle wigs, and we were in makeup for like half an hour, and they're putting all this stuff on our face, which is news to me. I'd never been in makeup in a wardrobe trailer before. That was, you see these in movies. It's like, yeah, those really happen, and there are people that they just are putting on people's faces and making sure that the clothing looks right. Anyway, that was held at an airplane hangar in Santa Monica. I remember that. What's his name? Who's the guy that played Batman? Keaton.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton was one of the MCs there, as was Mike Myers. Mike appeared a couple of times. That was fun. I think Jewel was in the artist in the next dressing room to ours. What else did we see there? Elle McPherson? No, like some supermodel. It was interesting. I'd never been part of a movie awards show before, and I maybe have only been on one since.
That's really cool. And you've performed at the Grammys a couple times, right? Or at least once. Didn't you do something with
not only was I was in the Grammys Salute to the Beach Boys that was of 2023. I was in the house band of that. And we played with the Brian Wilson band. Well, actually it was the Beach Boys. The 1 year I was in the Beach Boys, 2012, we were invited to perform on the Grammys. I can't remember what songs we did, but that was sort of our announcement to the world that the Beach Boys were going to be touring and doing on their 50th year reunion, even though technically it would have been 51 because it was 1961 when Surfing came out, not 1962.
It's true for the real hardcore fans out there. Probyn is not wrong about that. And apparently Al Jardine never did go to dentist school. That's another myth.
Amazingly, I believed that he had gone to dental school until about 5 years ago when Al told me otherwise.
I did too until about 5 months ago. Oh man, the lore is unbelievable with the Beach Boys. Like it's like what you hear versus what's true versus what the different camps want you to believe. So it's a classic American story in so many ways. And It's funny. Al said in an interview recently he doesn't think there should be like a movie. Obviously, there was Love and Mercy, which I know you advised on. One of the actors playing part of the wrecking crew, or the one playing Al, right?
Yeah, right.
But he just said, we were actually really kind of boring. We just basically recorded all the time. There's not too much. There's not like this whole thing like the Rolling Stones or the Beatles, or we weren't really, he basically downplayed it and said we weren't really that interesting, but I don't agree with that.
Like they never threw televisions out of the window of hotels, that sort of thing. Yeah.
No, they would, Carl would come around with a bag of hamburgers and we'd sit and write songs together in the sandbox.
Well, I got to say that sounds about right. I mean,
I have heard that story. To try and get Brian to write something, they would bring over a sack of double cheeseburgers, and it would work sometimes. What's the story behind the time that you performed with or saw Phil Collins at a concert?
Oh, sure.
You told me this one fairly recently.
2001 or 2002, that we were invited to be one of the few American acts to play at the Queen's Silver Jubilee, which was being held at Buckingham Palace. So we came onto the scene. We drove on they sent a limo out, and when it came in, we were in the car and they jacked it up from the bottom like we were in the auto shop, and they checked the bottom of the vehicle for bombs. Because you got to do that. I mean, maybe the Sinn Féin, one of the Irish independence factions, might have done something. Anyway, we were cleared and we went into Buckingham Palace, which is amazing. You drive through a little bit of wood. I think they call it St. John's. No, it's not St. John's Wood. I think it's St. James Park is part of Buckingham Palace. It's a forest. So we drove through the woods in the middle of London, driving through the woods to arrive at Buckingham Palace. And the first thing I see when I get out of the limo, we have to go through this recreation area. And there's Brian May of Queen, who's about 6'2", playing foosball with some kids that were just old enough to barely see over the top to see where the ball was happening and to operate the little soccer players. Yeah, that was very interesting to play as part of the Jubilee. At one point, one of our crew looked up at Buckingham Palace. There was smoke. He said, "Is that correct?" And they said, "No, it's not." And it turned out there was an electrical fire. So they evacuated the whole area, and we were ushered onto this area where there were little signs that said, "Do not walk on the Queen's grass." Well, we were instructed to walk there, so we did. And George Martin of the Beatles fame pulled up a director's chair and started holding court and answering any and all questions about the Beatles until they got the source of the fire extinguished. And because Brian May was supposed to be in the top of Buckingham Palace to play this guitar solo, and I guess that something was awry, and when people weren't around, something caught fire up there, and they were able to. But anyway, to your point, we were there for at least a day or two. I remember seeing Ozzy Osbourne sound checking with a reunion of Black Sabbath, and Tony Iommi, the guitar player, had a giant Marshall stack, and they hit the first note, and Ozzy fell on the ground and said into the microphone, "Oh, turn that bloody thing down."
Oh my God.
Anyway, as part of the, these are long days when you're working on these TV shows and these big presentations. So there's always a lunch break and there's catering. So we went on a lunch break, and I was tired. I didn't want to talk to my fellow band members. So I saw this faraway table. One guy was sitting there. So I walked over, and I didn't recognize him. I didn't know who he was. I just some guy. I thought he was a crew member or something. And we started talking about favorite places that we'd lived. And I said mine was probably one of the places in New Hampshire where I'd grown up. And he said that it was a place of his that was in Switzerland, which made me think, that's probably not a crew member if one of the places he lived was Switzerland. So we started rehearsing again, and my band member said, "So what did Phil Collins have to say?" And I said, "What?" He said, you were just talking to Phil Collins, who at that point, he was the drummer of the house band that was backing most of the acts. And I just didn't recognize him.
He looked like a techie, right? He looked like one of the tech guys.
He was dressed down, and like he could have easily been a crew member, looking at the garments he was wearing. And
that's so funny, Probyn, because there's all these really great memes about Phil Collins now, that because he has the microphone he likes to wear is just a headset one, that you can talk into, and the memes say when the IT guy can fix your computer problem and then get behind the drums and wail, and Phil Collins with the headset.
Right.
That's one of the things that endears us to him, I think, Eric.
Oh, well, he's every man, and I could totally see that. You just sit down with him, and if you weren't really thinking, to look for someone like that, we'd be like, yeah, it's just another dude. Just another guy I was talking to.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's people that are like that too. When I first met Eric Clapton, he was really just one of the guys. He'd hang out at the pub and talk sports, and it was all the same, whether or not you were someone famous or someone on the other band's crew or something. He was just a regular guy.
Yeah, didn't you actually recorded in the studio with him for Brian's solo album, right? In 04, 05.
Yes.
Getting It Over My Head?
Over My Head, right. City Blues. I think he did the blues guitar breaks. And I can't remember. Did he sing on that one too? I can't remember. But that was one of my favorite compliments I ever got from anyone was we'd been playing at the Royal Festival Hall, and afterwards Eric was there backstage, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey man, I really like your slide guitar playing." And I thought, "You like my slide? I like your playing."
Wow,
that's epic.
Yeah, he's just one of the guys.
That Phil Collins story, that's great. And then one of the all-time favorites, Probyn, from you is Bono and Brian.
Yes,
when
right.
What would be the cliff notes of that?
The cliff notes of that was that he was at some event in which famous people were also present, either a charity show or something. And I wasn't there when this happened, but I've heard it secondhand that Bono was dressed he looked a little bit like a waiter owing to the whatever is. He had those funny glasses, and anyway, he came over to Brian's table and he knelt down and he said to Brian, I am such a fan of your music. Thank you for, gracing us with your talent and all this. And Brian, taking him for a waiter, said to him, that's great. Can you get me a Diet Pepsi? So Bono went to get him the Diet Pepsi. And while he was gone, someone said to Brian, hey, that's Bono. And Brian said, who? He said, the guy from U2. Oh, right, U2. I've heard of that band. So Bono came back and brought him his Diet Pepsi, and maybe they talked for a little while more. But sometimes, he didn't even know. Like the one of the first shows that we did in 1999. Who's the guy from the Smashing Pumpkins?
Billy Corgan?
Yes, Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan was there, and he was kind of bummed that Brian didn't immediately recognize him and come over and greet him as a peer.
Yeah.
And so he asked that we tell Brian who he was, which we did. And there was a little bit of an uncomfortable interlude where Brian had said hi, but was obviously wishing now to be elsewhere. And so finally, in this sort of uncomfortable silence, Brian said rather abruptly, rock and roll is here to stay. It will never die. And then he just walked away.
Oh, that's classic.
Like that somehow this utterance of his was like, okay, and that's my ticket out of here is rock and roll will never die.
I'm out of here. Yeah. If I ever meet Billy Corgan, I'll ask him about that.
I think maybe Nikki told us this one backstage, or you may have, but the one about Brian signing an autograph, I think, for one of the Eagles and saying thank you for
yes.
One of the did you witness that?
I was not there. That was at, I think, Madison Square Garden. Either Jeffrey Foskett was there or Darian was there and told it to us. A writer whose name is escaping me now. Shoot, I can't remember the name of the writer. Anyway, one of the writers of Rolling Stone had passed away, and they were doing a memorial for him at Madison Square Garden, and there were going to be some famous people there. And so Don Henley of the Eagles knew that Brian was coming, so he brought his CD copy of Pet Sounds to be signed. So it happens. There's Don. He meets Brian. He says, I have this CD. Would you mind signing it? And Don, and this time, so Brian looks at him, and unlike the Bono time, he knows who he is. It's Don Henley. So he says, Dear Don, thanks for all the great music, Brian Wilson. And he hands the CD over. And then they continue talking. The circle remains. The people are still hanging around and talking. A minute or two later, Brian said to Don, hey, Don, can I get that CD and the Sharpie back? So he hands it to Brian, and Brian says, thanks for all the great music. He takes the Sharpie and strikes out the word great and puts good and hands it back to Don. And to his credit, Don took it, in a good grace, like, well, sure. I didn't write Hotel California, so maybe Lion Eyes or whatever the songs that he wrote were. It's really good, but Brian couldn't let it stand. He had to fix it. It wasn't to him. It wasn't the great music of the Eagles. It was merely the good music of the Eagles.
Dude, I'll take that compliment, man. That's good enough, really. I mean, that's God, there's so many stories over the years that you hear about, and that you've shared with us. And of course, part of your duties being in the band was there were times where you had to take care of Brian, right? Like get him to the plane or get him from point A to point B.
I mean, usually there was a handler for that, someone that was on the payroll that would sleep in the room with him, make sure that he didn't just like leave and go down the hall and do whatever. Because sometimes Brian would do embarrassing things, which I won't even relate here because I don't want to make him look bad. But he had a person to keep him from on the sort of the straight and narrow. But other times, like when we were in Japan in 1999, there was a big group of fans that almost overwhelmed the crew and the band. We had to form this sort of a triangle around him and head the triangle wherever it was we were going, to the departure gate or something, because otherwise he was going to be mobbed.
So you had to physically kind of form a barrier?
I'm sorry?
You had to physically form a barrier? Basically.
Once in a great while. I mean, it was a rarity, but it did happen a couple of times that Brian was in danger of being overcome by his fans. A small anecdote which just came into my mind. One of the times we played Sydney, Australia, we played at this, I believe it was the State Theater. And the promoter had foolishly said, anyone can get anything signed by Brian after the show. So there was this huge line of people with things, usually tickets to get signed. And Brian was at this little folding card table backstage. And it got too much for him. He didn't even look at the things. He kept his gaze down. He had the pen. Someone would insert something like a CD, and he'd just write Brian Wilson and pull it out, and then insert the next one. He'd write Brian Wilson, and the next one he pulled out. So finally, it came to the end. It was over. The last person had gotten their stuff signed. But there were a couple of people hanging around on the back and the side, which we'll see what they did in a minute. Anyway, so the people in charge of the event start to close up shop. Brian gets up, the handler with him leaves, and then the card table gets folded up, and they lean it against the wall, and they're getting whatever else they're getting together. Some fans that were still there ran over, grabbed the table, and the table at this point had been signed, because sometimes when the CDs had inserted, Brian didn't write on the CD, he just wrote on the copy of the top of the table. So he'd signed the table itself several times, which these people must have known. They ran and stole the table. They grabbed it and ran away with this table signed by Brian Wilson numerous times.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
The Brian table.
Wow. Yeah, my friend Dave, who went to one of his later shows, because he's a big Brian fan, and we just had a good laugh over this. You know, when Blondie was playing the solo for, I think, Sail on Sailor or Wild Honey, Brian's just kind of looking at him as he's playing, and Brian just goes into the microphone. Okay, you know, like, that's enough. Wrap the solo up.
I can. That's
okay.
Classic. I remember him saying that a couple of times, because Blondie would like to play long guitar solos, 48 bars, 64 bars, whatever it was.
Wow. You earlier you mentioned Todd Rundgren. I actually sat next to his wife on a flight from Seattle to Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know it was her until basically the gist of it was we got to talking, and I told her about some of the comedy stuff I did and Trump impression and all that. And she's like, well, where in Hawaii are you staying? And I said, I'm staying on Princeville in Kauai. And she said, oh, well, my husband and I own a restaurant there. And she wrote, like, on the back of one of our boarding passes, she's like, take this and your whole meal is on us. I really enjoyed, the flight with you, and it was a great conversation. So I did that, and my friend and I got like a whole comped drinks and meal, everything at this really great Tiki and Iki, it's called, in Princeville,
right.
Hawaii.
I've never been there, but I know about it.
Okay. So I had no idea who she was, just a really nice, friendly, sociable woman. And then maybe a year or two later, for some reason, Mike was doing some kind of research into Todd Rundgren, and he's like, dude, weren't you in Princeville, Hawaii, on Kauai, and you went to a tiki bar there? I said, yeah. He's like, I'm pretty sure that one you went to was owned by Todd Rundgren and his wife. And then he's like, was this the woman you were next to on the plane? And he sent me a photo. I'm like, that was her.
That's nice.
So, yeah,
He was very nice to me at the beginning of this Baccarat tour. She only came to a couple of the dates because, of course, they live in Hawaii, pretty far away, and we were just going all around the continental United States. Anyway, she and Todd didn't like my stage shirts, so they bought me two and just gave them to me, these paisley shirts, and I checked them out afterward. They were like $100 shirts.
Really?
They were not cheap.
Wow.
So she was very nice to me.
So we've both been comped by the Rundgrens, Probyn.
Yes, we have.
And I know that Todd Rundgren is your absolute favorite of all time, correct? Like your number one.
He is. The just recently turned 83 Neil Young was my first real musical hero, and then it was Brian Wilson, and then it was Todd Rundgren, and it sort of remained Todd Rundgren ever since.
Yeah, so it looked like you got to have some pretty good downtime with him, though, and meals, and kind of maybe get to know him a little better, or
yes and no. Todd he's sort of a private guy. I mean, he's learned, I think, well, not learned. He's become more sociable, and they have these Todd stocks once a year where fans get together. Once they even went to his house and they were allowed to camp on his lawn on Kauai. Anyway, he pegged me pretty fast out of the gate as one of the fans who was going to, if given my free reign, I was going to ask him all kinds of questions about the 1970s. And he has a limited amount of brain time that he wants to spend on that sort of thing. And I caught wind of that. So I put a lid on it. But as a result, he would sort of come in late to the sound checks. He was traveling with a driver/manager, and he had his own routing and itinerary completely separate from the rest of the band. Like he would generally fly most places. And we would be on we had 14 people on a 12-person tour bus on the Bach Rock tour, with all the gear being hauled on a trailer behind the bus. And it was fine. It was fun being sort of hugger mugger but we didn't see Todd that much. He would come sort of late to the sound check, and he would generally eat in his dressing room, not with the rest of us. And he was sociable enough, but I don't really feel like I got to know him any better, other than I can say that he loves Perry Mason reruns from the 60s. Whenever you pass his dressing room, he was continually watching Perry Mason.
That's funny. Did you ever read that kind of exchange that he had with John Lennon in the 70s?
Oh, what did John call him? Tood Runtle Snuff or something. They had a little sparring match. Was it Letters to Rolling Stone? Is that where
Yeah, I think Rundgren wrote a song about him or something, or he mentioned him in the song, and then Lennon wrote wrote a letter to him, I think. I don't know.
I don't remember what song it was, but you're right. There was a little bit of an exchange, and finally, I think the two of them agreed that the press was having a field day and that they didn't want to play along anymore. So they said, "Let's wrap this up. I don't want these bozos to, be benefiting at our expense."
Exactly. To me, it felt like a proto Blur versus Oasis type thing of like the Britpop 90s. It's really just for the rags. The rags are making so much money, mate. They're having hand over fist money. That's kind of what it reminded me of. And I don't know, the amount of time you've been in the music industry, it wouldn't surprise you to see that a lot of this stuff is just manufactured for money and headlines.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by anything anymore. Although, I mean, some magazines like NME, New Musical Express, to a certain extent, the Rolling Stone, I think Rolling Stone has maintained their journalistic integrity. Like when they do a think piece or something with some research, it's generally been vetted, and I'm learning some good things. I think the writers are good.
Yeah, they did a great piece on you last year, man. That was killer.
Oh, that's right. They did one on me finally.
That we're going to parlay that into the, I don't know if it's called Sidemen or whatever it's called in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for a Probyn Gregory campaign for the HOF.
Oh wow! I is that now? I only voted once or twice. I voted a couple of times.
That's
I
cool.
didn't know that they had a sideman category.
It's either a sideman or I have to look more into it. But when I first heard about it, I was like, Probyn, come on. And I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you about, this was really cool when you kind of casually dropped this like a decade ago, that you were in fact recording with John Williams or in a session for Star Wars, playing some horn or some tuba, or can you extrapolate on that a little bit?
Sure. That was wasn't that long ago. It was definitely under 10 years ago. It was Rogue One.
Oh, it was Rogue. Okay, so it would have been 20. That came out in 2015 or 16.
Okay, so maybe it was just about 10 years ago. The son of an old college friend of mine, who I know a little, called me up and said, "Hey, Probyn, you play a bunch of brass instruments, right?" And I said, "Sure." He said, I've got a job for you. Come into such and such a place on Sunday and bring everything you have, all instruments," which meant I had a sousaphone, tuba, valve trombone, French horn, flugelhorn, trumpet. I think that's about it. Anyway, I brought them all down. And the place was very nondescript. I think it even said something like a typewriter company on the marquee on the top of the building. But they had these computer codes to get in the door. And then once we were in, there were further computer codes to get in the next hallway, which seemed very high security for a music session. So I go in with all my instruments and music starts playing, and it sounds really familiar. And I said, "Hey, is this John Williams?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Is this Star Wars?" He said, "Kinda." And I'm like, oh my God, am I going to meet John Williams? And he said, no, he's not here. What we're working on today is we're not working on the movie, and we're not even working on the trailer. We're working on the trailer for the trailer. They call it a teaser. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. He said, John Williams heard what we did, and he said, the samples are great, but I wanna hear one real guy. So find me a guy. So I was the guy. So we recorded for like 2.5, maybe almost 3 hours. They beat my chops. There wasn't anything written out. They played the cue. They said, okay, do you hear that phrase? Da 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 ba 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 da 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 da. I said, yeah, I can do that. I said, okay, let's hear that with a muted trumpet. Da 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 ba ba da 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 da, etc. So I did that, but they were like, okay, now let's do another one. I'm like, give me a minute to recover my hips were getting tired. So it got to the end. And we were wrapping up, and I said, so this is great. I mean, and I'll give you please, remember I'm a union musician. Please remember to log it as a union session, because so I can get my residuals or whatever. They didn't do it. It was too much paperwork. It took me 9 months to get paid, and I got paid as a caterer.
Bullshit.
And when I saw the teaser, and I could definitely hear my muted trumpets were there. Those were mixed pretty high up, but I couldn't hear the rest of it. The French horns and the trombones were just sort of a mass of sampled other brass instruments.
You got paid the wages that Bono got when he brought Brian the Pepsi.
You got paid scale. Yeah.
You got scale catering.
Actually, they were apologetic about it being taken 9 months to get paid. So they threw another $200 on there. So I think the session fee was like $600, I think, for the 3 hours, and then I made an extra $200. So maybe I made $800 off that. But it made a great story.
Yeah, and you're part of the Star Wars lore.
Yeah, and I don't know if you saw Rogue One, Probyn, but that's one of the best Star Wars flicks of the last decade, hands down.
I don't think I have seen it, so I will have to watch that.
It's worth a watch.
So it takes place between A New Hope and, it takes place between episode 3 and 4. So between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
New Hope, yeah.
Okay.
If that means anything, I don't know. I could just be talking out of my ass too.
But just tangentially, it reminds me that just recently, my wife and I me in particular, have been wanting to introduce my 14-year-old son to Star Trek, the original series.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wait, hold on. What was that? Okay, my son is telling me that he wanted to watch Star Trek anyway. It wasn't me just trying.
Okay. It wasn't Dad's idea, huh? No, it's funny.
That old series. I didn't see it. It came on the air when I was a kid, but it was either the time slot was too late or something. My parents didn't allow it. But finally, when I got out of college and I just moved to Los Angeles, they were doing midnight reruns, and I was always up at midnight. So I became a fan then in 1980. Finally, many years it was off the air.
I mean, I feel like it's always been in rerun or syndication, and I really like the one where he fights the Gorn.
We just saw that last night. The sounds are great. Captain Kirk, I have heard every word you said.
And in a complete act of mercy, he spares the Gorn dude, and it's just
right.
It just doesn't get much better than that.
No, and I love that the superior being that then has orchestrated the whole one-on-one fight appears dressed as a sort of a wood nymph or something, very airy-fairy.
All right, well, we're over an hour now, and we want to be mindful of your time. Probyn, thank you so much, man. It was really, really great to catch up and see you. And again, you're a huge influence on us, and we just can't thank you enough for your friendship and your generosity and your warmth and just everything you did for us to help us connect with the Beach Boys world and Brian Wilson. I mean, we'll have those memories for the rest of our lives, and we were very fortunate. Very fortunate.
Well, you're so welcome, and I'm glad I could help be part of that all happening.
Absolutely. Well, all right, everybody. That's another episode of Jackman Radio. Please join us next time. And if you like this, we are on YouTube, Podbean, Spotify. We are on www.patreon.com/JackmanRadio. And we will see you next time. in the stream.